Hi, good evening, and welcome to Doherty High School for District 11's second town hall. I'm your superintendent, Michael Gall, and I'm honored and privileged to be here. I'd like to first acknowledge our board members that are in attendance. I think I saw President Dr. Parthmal Packham, and I know I see Director Juliot, Director Lauren Nelson. Any other board members here? Nope, that was 3. If I had one more, it'd be a quorum, so we'd be in trouble. I'd like to acknowledge our partner, CSCA President Joe Schott. If you could raise your hand there, Joe, thank you for being here. Certainly the staff of Doherty, Principal Lana, where are you? There you are. And Vice Principal, God, I always know your name, Hillary, I don't know your last name. Heighton. Nice to see you as well. And other members of my staff, the executive staff, please raise your hand. I won't introduce everybody, but if we have some deeper questions, I'll be funneling over them. We're going to start today with a little color guard performance from Doherty High School. We have Savannah and we have Lucy. A lot of things we're going to talk about tonight. What I want you to notice is when we talk about choice, Savannah actually doesn't go to Doherty. She goes to Odyssey, but she's able to participate in the color guard program here at Doherty. So that's one of the ways that we manage choice in here. So ladies, if you please come forward. Both seniors and both looking for work next year, they said. So the floor is yours.
So I'm Savannah. I am a senior. Okay. Okay, I've never talked in a mic before, so it's different. So I'm Savannah. I am one of the captains here at Doherty. I am a senior. And as Mr. Gale said, I do not go to Doherty. I go to Odyssey. It's an early college high school in the Wasson campus. But I do color guard over here at Doherty, and I have all throughout high school. And that's kind of like one of the things why like D11, the district itself is really like, how do you say it? Like really great because I'm pretty sure, like, well, I don't know about the other districts, but I'm pretty sure you probably couldn't be able to do that. So I think that's really cool. But my experience, like, with color guard is it's really felt like a family because it's kind of tied on to band. Like, we do performances with marching band in the fall, and then we have our own thing during winter season. And it's just, like, we're all just, like, one big, like, family. And pretty much all of my friends are in band or color guard, and it's just like really amazing. I've met some really amazing people, and it's just a really fun activity, and I really enjoy doing it.
My name is Lucy. I'm a senior here at Doherty. My experience with color guard, it kind of started in 8th grade. There was like a little like mini trial, and I went to that. And then after one day, I was like, I don't like this. I'm not doing it. But then in high school, I got the opportunity to do it again. And in high school, it's kind of more like a professional. They take it more serious. And like in middle school, it's more like a kind of fun. It's not a lot of competition. But I liked the competition side of it, so with the family aspect, it was new people every year. So it was, you were able to start kind of new with other people and just get to warm up to them, and that was really fun. I was actually a drum major this year, so I wasn't part of the color guard outdoors, but I got to see the color guard, and I kind of wished I was in it that time. So, oh well. But it was a great experience overall.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, welcome again. I'm going to members of our staff, and sometimes a member of our community is members of our staff, so that's always kind of fun as well. I want to cover probably my first topic, which is snow and weather related. I know I want people to kind of understand the philosophy that we use. So first I want to thank my team. I see Terry standing right next to David Allison, who are two key players in how we make our snow decisions. My number one objective every day is for us to be able to provide a safe learning environment for our children. That's what I wake up and I think to myself. I have certainly been reminded of the various in our very broad geographic region that we cover. But I wake up every day thinking, is it safe enough to go to school? We have a protocol. We meet at 4 a.m. on the phone. Terry's got weather forecasts. David Allison over there helps run that we have weather to get real live information of, I met Jackie from Rudy. What's Inspiration Road? Is that the road that goes up to Rudy? Yeah. What is Inspiration Road like at 4 a.m.? Oh, it's completely snow covered. I can't get up there. There's no traction. That's the type of inputs that we take. My number one goal is to get face-to-face instruction every day that I can get it. So I ate it and I took a mea culpa on missing that first one. But the second time, I think that's a morning we should be going to school and going to school on time. And then the third one, when we had the wind-related event, we did a 2-hour delay to make sure that the buildings were safe. The last major windstorm, there were many parts of the city that were unsafe. There were downed wires, so on and so forth. As parents, you always have the ultimate call that says, I happen to live, there's like that little really weird part off of Woodman that kind of looks like you're out in the country, like you're way out in Callahan, but you're not. So you might have a quarter of a mile the general way we think about it is winter storm warning means I'm not sure a host school. Winter weather advisory normally means that it's businesses are going to be open. If you don't know, I answer every email that comes in from a parent, good or bad. I get a kick out of when people say to me, I'm over here at Starbucks, I just dropped my kid off and it's not very safe. I'm like, well, if you're at Starbucks, it must be okay. But there are some hard lessons that we've learned. So live tonight, I'm announcing that I'm canceling remote learning snow days for the rest of the year. We've not executed one, but we have announced that we had a plan for that. I just am learning or relearning that our ability to forecast weather in Colorado Springs accurately enough for all of our schools is not at a place where I feel that I can tell you on a Monday afternoon that I don't think we're going to have school on Tuesday, but yet you should take your device home and teachers should be ready to go. We have enough days built into the calendar, and God forbid if we have another bomb cyclone, we have the ability to adjust the calendar. We will get our children the instruction that they need, so I'm going to put a pause on remote learning days for snow purposes, okay? So that should be live feeding right now, so that's one number. And if you want to thank somebody, everybody send an email to the students from Palmer High School and the snow committee, because if I can, so remember, our goal is for our students to be engaged in their own educational journey. If I can get the 8 students who can put together a survey monkey and get all of the inputs and come up with graphs and support each other 3 minutes at a time, now we could all pick apart that data, right? But they put the effort in, we have to be responsive to that. So they're right. We want to make sure that we all understand how to learn remotely, because there are going to be opportunities, unfortunately, in the future for all of us to have to continue to be on devices, because that's just the world that we live in. So, okay. The second thing I want to talk about here is just choice. We're in the choice window. Who knows that? We're in the choice window. Choice window ends when? Anybody? What was that? My team knows. February 15th. Okay? So we enter the choice window on November 1st, and it's all the way until in the middle of February. I just want to talk about choice. About space, about need, about eligibility, and about whether or not you were expelled. We this year decided that every one of our schools will take permits. We know that we have open classrooms and we have open seats, so we're using space as the only thing that we want to hold back on. And we have room. We've been a decreasing enrollment system for many years. This last year, we had several schools who weren't sure if they wanted to open up to choice, and we made a promise. We built trust with our staff and our community that says, if you get more kids, we will get you the teachers. And even though we are still short teachers in January, every school that over-enrolled was able to hire new teachers. You all know this as parents who exercise choice. You choose for quality. And we also know that staff normally likes to be hired into those buildings as well. So where there is demand from a student and a family perspective, there is also demand from a hiring perspective. Teachers want to be in schools that are over-enrolling because it normally means it's a positive and reinforceable community within that school. The other thing I want to talk about choice is we've looked a little bit about the numbers. And so there's lots of rumors about what choice is and what choice is not. I had the team measure, well, first of all, let me go back. Last year was the first year that we had a centralized enrollment process. That's allowing us to understand the data so we could be more predictive of the data instead of being reactive to the data. I believe that every educator in our system would do anything they could for any kid in every family, but what I need is the data to then be supportive of their will to want to do good for families. Centralized enrollment has given us access to information in ways that we haven't had before. We're not all the way there yet, and I'll tell you where the gap is. We were able to measure what I call the noise, which is families choosing, I don't want to go to King, I want to go to Keller, but the line that I live on says that I'm supposed to go to King, but I actually work at Keller, or the line changed and I used to go. Families want to make choices. 25% of our District 11 families make an intra-district choice. That was much higher than I thought it was going to be. Much, much higher. 1 out of every 4 children is going to a school that is not their geographic boundary. I think that's great. I think it is reflective of where we are as a country. I don't know very many people who go to the closest restaurant. I think they go to the restaurant that they want to go to. I don't know anybody who flies on United just because its hub is out of Denver. They buy the ticket that is either the best time or the least cost. We are in an environment that is gripped with choice. So we choose to celebrate choice in District 11. The second data point that we found that I thought was really interesting was because we talk about decreasing enrollment averaging, and we talk about how people don't want to be in our system. There's had been this general cloud over the district. We actually bring in 9% of out-of-boundary families into the East Colorado Springs School District 11. That's a much higher number than I thought we were going to see. And again, it was consistent at the elementary, middle, and high school level. You all are right up here at the border, the boundary, I like to say, with District 20. You could live on Rangewood, and you're probably closer to Liberty High School or Rampart High School than you are to Doherty, but you're boundaried into Doherty. We see families choosing to come to District 11. That's a celebration point for us. We're going to continue to dig into that data. I've asked Dr. Colicky, who leads our enrollment team through our Ed Insights division, to get surveys out to our out-of-boundary families that are inside our system. See, we have all this data. It's in Power School. And we're going to ask them, why District 11? We're so excited that you're here. Is it a program? Is it the color guard? The girls left already, didn't they? Of course they did. As fast as they can. First time with a microphone, though, so they're a winner there. Why are you coming to District 11? We want to know that. We have some ideas on why we think people choose District 11. Now, the piece that we're missing and we're working on is we're still not really sure how many people live in District 11 and choose to leave District 11. And that's not because we can't track it. If you just pick up and say you're leaving and you're going to go to Liberty High School, or you're going to go out to Cheyenne Mountain High School or something like that, I know that you left. I just don't know where you landed unless the gaining district shares that information. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with some outside agencies and get some live birth data that tells us how many families are actually here. for us then to be able to do the math and the diagnostic to understand. I've heard numbers of between 8 and 10,000 kids live in District 11 and don't attend District 11 schools. That's a pretty big number when we're a 22,000 kid system, and we used to be a 30,000 kid system. The other good news that we got from centralized enrollment is that we were much more accurate in our projections for where we would be on enrollment this year. We beat our projection, but we didn't beat our last year number. But we beat our projection. So the good news is we didn't lose as bad as we thought we were going to lose. The bad news is we still lost overall. But there are some general trends that come from that. The really good news, particularly, are you all Doherty feeder system families? Raise your hand if you're a Doherty feeder system family. Yeah, so about half of you here. So I'll read them off because you all should be proud. And they're going to show you the growth that exists in this sector of the city. Rudy beat it, Martinez beat it, Freedom beat it, Fremont beat it, Keller beat it, King beat it, and then Jenkins beat it. So you can see there's growth in the system that they not only beat their projection, but they were our strongest enrolled schools. Now, Doherty didn't beat their number, right? So it's telling you that there's still a little bit of gap in the system. We always see most loss happen in what we call the matriculation years. I love Rudy Elementary School, so I'm going to stay at Rudy until I get up to Rudy. And then suddenly, in the 6th grade, where do I want to go to middle school? Now I have a choice. So that's the power of choice. But the way I like to think about it is market share. If you love Rudy, I promise you you're going to love Jenkins. And if your kid's doing really well and needs a gifted magnet program, boy, you got to go see what's happening in that back hallway at Sabin, right? We have to be selling those opportunities to you and not just passively telling them to you. So there's a couple of handouts that are on the desks, and if you don't have them, they're available over here in the corner, that tell you how to enroll and how to exercise choice. There's a couple of things that the district has built, thanks to the Board of Education and the previous administration, that are centered in our academic master plan, that seek to be two things at once. We seek to be a quality neighborhood school in every building that we have, and we seek to provide unique niche experiences for families who actually want them. Anybody here ever been a part of a dual language immersion school? Okay, there you go. Thank you, Maria. There is great power in children learning in 2 different languages during the day. Incredible power that comes from that. But it's not for everybody. First of all, it took us, I've been here since July, and Romy, it's great to have you again. It took us months to hire 2 translators. You can imagine how difficult it would be to hire every teacher to have bilingual experience. The demand's not there, so what we do is we say Rogers Elementary School is our dual language immersion elementary school. That's a pathway school. We have 2 arts pathway schools, Columbia and Martinez. Martinez, again, being in the Doherty feeder system. We have 2 STEM pathway schools, Bristol and McCullough. Then we have 2 what we call, I like to call them experiential schools. We have an outdoor learning program at Halbert Elementary School, and we have a Montessori school at Buena Vista. So we're trying to meet this duality of demand, which is, I bought a house in this neighborhood, my school ought to be the highest quality. We're going to get you the highest quality education we can, but if you want something hyper-specific, we're going to offer that for you too. But you're going to have to choice into that, because I can't make every school a Columbia Arts Integration program. I can't do it. I would love to be able to do that, but we either run out of time, or we run out of money, or we run out of, as I said, the ability to hire staff that can deliver at that level. So it's a balance, and I hope you all see the balance. And if you all have been in the system much longer than I have, that work has been codified over several years of communication and feedback through community to understand what those demand buckets would be for those specialized programs. So we're excited for those programs that I talked about. They're all through their we call it 0-year planning this year, which means next year, if you go to Martinez, you're going to start seeing those Mary Poppins chalk drawings on the sidewalk, and your kid's going to jump into one, and we'll get them back to you at the end of the day. I think Dick Van Dyke is still alive, is that right? Yeah, so maybe you'll do that little penguin dance with Dick Van Dyke. I'm way dating myself. Let's see, what else do I want to cover before we open it up? But our Pathways program doesn't just exist at the elementary school level. We have a robust CTE program, and for those who don't understand, CTE is continuing tech, career tech education. How do we get kids at the high school level, and we're actually leaning back into middle school now, how do we get them hands-on and stop just talking about education of how was school today? Well, Mrs. Jones wasn't there today, so we had a sub, but Mr. Williamson's class was okay, and then I went to PE. Like, that's how I went through school. And then I went and flew airplanes. And I was like, wait a second, flying airplanes is much cooler than sitting on my butt in classrooms all day. So CTE gives us the chance to actually get out and about and exercise the standards that we learned and demonstrate them through competency-based and actually career-building opportunities. I'm a road biker, and so on the weekends sometimes when the weather's warmer, I'll keep taking the weather jokes all day, I'm here all day, I'll go out east of town, and there's giant windmills east of town. Do you know how much money you get paid to work on a windmill? How can we build a training program where we're teaching our kids the skills to immediately graduate high school and go be windmill technicians and make six figures? Like, let's figure that out. That's career tech education. Now, when I went to high school, how old am I? You know, it was auto hobby shop and wood shop. That's all it was, right? We're developing partnerships with UC Health. We already have partnerships with UCCS. They have a cybersecurity lab. We have the most phenomenal culinary services work happening here. We have students serving students through our ProStart work that's happening there. We have such incredible things happening in CTE. I talk about it because, again, it's a choice. It's a choice. How do children get access to these programs is a part of what you'll see. So the other thing that's important on that flyer is some of the work on, there it is. Can I hold up, Jacqueline, can I see it? It's just this work here and how we're talking about those. If you want more information, it's all available on the web on all these different pathways. The other thing I'll touch upon briefly is just our continued effort to open up universal pre-K. If you have a pre-K age student and you want an opportunity to put them into school, we're going to do that. We're opening up another one, King, on Monday morning, which again is within the feeder system here. So we're super excited about that. We have a rolling window right now. As we meet demand, we've got the classrooms identified. We're procuring the furniture. We're hiring the teachers. We're literally opening these up as soon as we can get the number of kids that we need to have the classroom open. When we get a pre-K student, we get them. It's on us to keep them. And what else do we get when we get a kid in pre-K? We get an extra half a day for a year to get them acclimated to an academic environment for them to be successful on their own journey, right? That's the whole goal. We're not trying to get kids to read in pre-K. This is not about forcing the alphabet down in you in pre-K. A pre-K classroom is the most delightful experience you're ever going to have. Kids learning to work together, kids learning to be acclimated to an academic environment. So when we get to kindergarten, then we're getting to those kindergarten readiness standards so we can get to kids reading on grade level by third grade, right? That's the goal. Everybody here knows it. We talk about it and we deny it and we look the other way. We got to get kids earlier. We got to get them stronger, faster, smarter, and give them the resources, the social emotional supports for them to be able to be ready by third grade. Okay, I'm going to pause there and open it up. My proxy for handing out microphones. Questions? No questions. Thank you. Please introduce and tell me if you're a parent, staff member, where your kid goes to school, and then come at me.
My name is Susan Strezich, and I am a teacher at Scott Elementary. My kids also went all the way through District 11 and graduated from Doherty High School as well. A long time ago. Anyway, my question is, how do you determine the enrollment projections per school and the schools that did not meet the projections? Can you explain more about that?
Yes, and one more time on the first name.
Susan.
Susan. Hi, thank you. So we've been working off a demographer study that was came. I've been working with the staff for us to get a new demographer study post-COVID. We think that anything that somebody predicted in 2018 is kind of humorous now because nobody would have predicted COVID. And there's been such a dramatic impact on how people fell out. Still don't know where they are. We don't know if they chose other brick and mortar schools or not, but most of that projection is built upon that demographer study, which for the most part has projected a steady decline in school-aged children within District 11 boundaries. The state overall is also continuing to project the loss of student-aged student-aged children in the system. We believe as a team, as we've looked at what's happening, particularly the numbers that we got this year, is that there is demand, particularly in District 11. Downtown continues to revitalize. There are apartment buildings going up everywhere downtown. There will be babies coming from those apartment buildings. No matter how you think about it, it's going to happen. The other thing that we see is that our strongest growth that happened this year through enrollment was in the southeast corner of the town, because the most affordable housing exists on the Front Range on the southeast part of town and probably further down in Pueblo. But if you're leaving the Denver metro area, you're going to be really happy when you get to exit 140 or so, and you're going to say, wait a second, I can live just a couple of miles from downtown. And so to complete my answer for you, the projection comes from an old demographer study that has trended down. This is the year that we've started to flatten that curve, so we're no longer losing, we're just not winning. And there's really no penalty right now unless it was a dramatic loss of enrollment, because the way the funding model works for schools is if you just use 25 to 1, we actually use 24 to 1. If I have 100 students, I need 4 teachers. So if I built you last year in the budget for 4 teachers, but you only have 50 kids, I can't keep paying you the 4 teacher salary. Now, there's really good news in that, which is we're still short 85 teachers across the system, so nobody's getting fired. And secondly, I don't think we missed our numbers that dramatically anywhere that we need to make that level of adjustment at an individual school where we would say you're losing that FTE from the school level. But it's a complicated algorithm. The goal is to try and stabilize the staff in the schools and not hold them accountable to that one more kid. But what we really want is schools active in the recruitment of students, because you all know your communities better than we're ever going to know at central office. There's such a dramatic difference between Japita Elementary School and McCullough Elementary School and the two environments that they are in. So we have a feedback mechanism in the projection. So when we build it, we actually then sit down with the principal and say, do you believe that that's attainable based upon your knowledge? Does that answer for you? Thank you, Susan. All right, can I ask questions? Who's got high school age kids in the system? Okay, can you tell me Darren, come on over. What's working for you in high school right now and what's not? Because high school's on my mind.
I know. Should have known. Give Darren the microphone. Where is Lana? Is she still here? There she is. So I have a current junior here at Doherty. This is my second Doherty student. I have a 21 graduate who's a sophomore in college right now and doing very well. I've always been pleased with Doherty. My junior is actively involved. She plays 2 sports right now, used to be 3, is doing well in school, behaving, I hope. And I think what I just really appreciate, honestly, and all of my children have gone through Scott, Jenkins, and Doherty, is the staff. And as a staff member too, I know that may seem biased, but I just think we have some of the hardest working teachers. And for high school, that's really what's working, is teachers who are accommodating, who are understanding where students are coming from, who pay attention to health plans, because that's important to me with my daughter. And just, being opportunities. Lana provides so many opportunities for us to be involved and to be a part of the community. Her communication is fabulous. I appreciate the weekly communication. We don't get that at all the schools, so I think that's a huge thing that's working well. And again, the athletic programs have been really helpful for both of my graduate and my current student.
Great, thank you. And this is Virginia. She's also staff member. Where do you teach again? Scott. At Scott Elementary School. And so I want to double down on some of the things that you said. First of all, you're right. I just love what I see happening in the classroom. Our number one strategy this year has been best first instruction, which is how do we get the resources and the training our teachers need in order to ensure that we deliver on that promise of good teaching and learning. And so I love your comment to celebrate that. Secondly, I was here this morning in Mr. Drummond's class, the AP US History. Just a delightful, it's hard to say delightful conversation about the Reconstruction period, but fun to see sophomores engaged at that level of trying to discern, should we have a bigger federal government or should we have more state rights? And not getting lost in the noise, but using historical facts to understand what were the pros and cons that came from that. A couple of other Doherty specifics. First of all, it's always fun to come to Sparta. I always feel like no, I'm not going to wear a toga and carry a shield or anything like that. But there's such a strong culture here. If you haven't seen, we're in the process right now of redoing the seats in the auditorium. There was a very generous contribution by a philanthropist to be able to do that. I met with the team yesterday, and I said I want to match and exceed that and finally level the stage. So this summer we're planning on redoing the stage and some of the front facades. It's not a complete redo of the auditorium, but when I heard that the dance team can't perform here because it's not safe to be on the stage, that's just unacceptable. And then to your comment about sports, which we hear in the background over there, which is always exciting, the turf field and track, that work will be done this summer as well, and that's thanks to the Fund Balance Task Force for that recommendation. So come August of '23, as we start next school year, we should have a brand new stage, brand new seats, and a brand new field and track for kids to be able to excel in the way that your children excelled here. So thanks to Lana and her team for that as well. Darren back there.
Hi, my name is Karen Crow. Probably don't even need the microphone. A lot of you know me. I'm a little bit loud. I'm from Jersey, so if it sounds like I'm yelling, I'm not. I just talk loud. I'm glad that you brought up the reunification or beautification of certain areas, but as an elementary school, we often get left out of the message or getting things that are new. Our field at our school at Scott has been dirt and weeds for over 15 years. And I'm just wondering, is there ever any conversation? I understand because of athletics that we have to make sure we provide those things for high schools and middle schools, but each year when I take my students out in the fall and we're working on running skills, at least 20 kids a day get hurt because they trip over a weed and there's no grass. So I'm just wondering, when do elementary schools get brought up and get some of the benefits that the middle schools and the high schools get, so that our students are safe when they're out doing their physical education or extracurricular activities?
Great. One more time on the first name.
Karen.
Karen. I should know that. Karen, I'm from Jersey too, and my sister's name is Karen. So what exit for you? 7A. All right. I know it very well. I'm exit 9. So 7A was my way to Great Adventure. So are you from Jackson or what?
No, I'm actually from Willingboro. I just said 7A because that's what popped in.
Okay, that's good. Okay, great. So Karen and I are going to have a very polite conversation as far as we're concerned, and everybody's going to be like, boy, did you see that fight that happened on TV? Because we're both from Jersey, so we get it. I would really like to just put exclamation points on that, because you're making a resource argument. We unfortunately lost our bond initiative a year ago by 11 votes. So now I don't know if a new field in Scott was in that, but we are woefully underfunded for what I just call day-to-day maintenance. This is a challenge not in our school district. This is a challenge in America, which is we build a school. Schools have lifespans. So we just had this conversation at our educational support personnel conference yesterday. Somebody was giving a brief on the history of District 11. And I watched it, and it was beautiful, and General Palmer and Queen Palmer and the growth, and we did this, and Mitchell High School was once one of the top 10 high schools in the country, all these things, yada, yada, yada. And we got to 1978, which was Coronado High School. That's the last time we built a high school in District 11. Okay, I tell people that I landed here in 1985, July 5th, on my way to the Air Force Academy, and that seems like a lifetime ago. And to think that with all the growth that's happened in this area, we have not built a new high school since Coronado High School in the late 70s is a travesty. So one, I will take a look at our capital's budget to understand. I understand how large Scott is. I think your safety angle is definitely something for us to look at to see how we can provide a safe playing environment for children at Scott. So I will invest the time to look at that. But there are now 49 other schools who will raise their hand and say the same thing, and they're right to do it. So raise your hand and yell. Outside during recess. That's an easy ask in a bond or an MLO. But we have to be that specific. It's not about 18 acres of turf, because that's confusing to voters. When you say, doesn't every kid deserve the chance to run around in the grass for an hour or 45 minutes after lunch? Everybody's going to say yes. And if you say for $18 more on your annual tax bill, will you help District 11 do that? That's how you win a bond. That's how we. So thank you, Karen. And I'll see you on the turnpike. And we'll honk at each other. Other questions? Thank you in the back.
Hi, I'm Peggy Close, and my son has come up through Scott and Jenkins, and is to go into CTE, to learn a trade. Is that something that can be offered for special education students? Are there paras and support available for that?
One more time, Peggy, is that
Peggy,
right? Nice to see you, and thank you for being here. I'm going to drift over here just for the camera. I'd like to thank you for that feeder and for recognizing who I've named Darren Jenkins instead of Darren Joyner for the work that he did in his principalship at Jenkins. So I'll just say a couple of things first about that feeder, right? That's a very clear feeder within our system. But it's a feeder because there's a connection. Right? We have very strong leaders in all three of those schools. This is the first year in some time that we put our school leadership to match the feeders. So Jenkins and became an area superintendent. The old model would have been that he would be in charge of some elementary schools, or he likely would have been in charge of all middle schools because he was a middle school principal. Middle schools have a lot of similar needs, so they should be talking to each other. But I promise you, if I were an 8th grader at Jenkins last year and I didn't know where to go to high school, and I knocked on Darren's door, Principal Joyner, I'm not really sure. Should I go to Palmer because I kind of like the IB program, or should I go to Doherty because my friends are going there and I heard the AP program's pretty good? Whatever that guy would have said to me if I were a kid or a family, I'd do it. Matter of fact, most of the day, whatever Darren tells me to do, I do it. Right? And that doesn't mean that you can't choose to do something different. It just means that you should have trust and confidence in the leadership to be able to make that connection. To your question about CTE and special ed, yes, yes, and yes. And so my CTE lead, Dwayne Roberson, is here. He's over in the corner. You can connect with him. As your child is moving up into the system for that, we will make sure that we're obligated to provide the resources required by IEP. And we can't exclude that to say, if there were a safety issue, that becomes an issue. But your child want access to CTE, we'll get your child access to those CTE programs and make sure that we can resource it. Great. Thank you, Peggy. Okay, come on over, Darren. We'll come to this side a little bit. It's like a written down question.
It's a written question. Because I'm old, I forget. You talked about the 85 teachers that we are short. I have a friend who recently went back into the teaching profession, and she went online, and for District 49, it took her 1 hour to complete an application. For District 20, it took 20 minutes. For District 11, it took her 6 days, 4 calls to HR, and it logged her out dozens of times.
Yep. So
what can we do to fix
we
that?
We are working very hard. Chief Bailey's back here in the corner. She's our Chief of Personnel Supports and Services, and we have made incredible inroads in just the last 6 months. So I'm very proud of the work the team has done, but we still have a very long way to go.
Okay.
Rooted at the bottom of this, and I don't know if people really want to hear this because it's not an excuse, but we have a legacy system called PeopleSoft that has 1,800 Band-Aids on top of it. And when I say because we're always going to have a resource conversation, right? I came up with this trick of have money fall out of the sky. It didn't work. It was snow instead, and I got in trouble for not canceling school. Sorry, that's my weather joke again. We can invest money on coming up with a new ERP. That is a platform in how it is that you navigate people in and out of a system. I don't know what 49 and 20 have. I would say to you that maybe they have a less antiquated system, but we're looking at that work right now. We're ready to bring that to the board as part of what do we do with some of the extra money that we had from the years of COVID. It's time for us to invest in the future instead of just keep band-aiding the back end. So I have one number one play for people on why you come to District 11. Can you hold my microphone for a little bit? It's like, we're the heart of the city, right? We are the heart of the city. There is no more diverse district in all of in Pikes Peak region, and I would say that we are probably almost as diverse as Denver Public Schools, but we get compared to what is really suburban school systems. And so the challenge in the diversity of the urban system is oftentimes we can't get out in front of ourselves. And that's what we're doing now. We're trying to think about the Colorado Springs School District 11 2050, not 2023.
Right.
So please pass that information to me. Send it to me who the candidate is. So we'll make an outreach to make sure that we can close that loop. I'm not paying as much as the other districts.
Right.
It's too hard to apply to our district, but I promise you an experience in District 11 is so much more satisfying. You will change the vector of every student that you touch. You will give them an opportunity in life. Not all our kids are coming from failed homes, but we are invested in relationships in a way that I think becomes so much more satisfying to our staff, which is why they stay, despite the fact that there are pay differentials, and despite the fact that we don't cancel as much as District 38 and 49.
Well, happy to report she was hired and started 2 days
There
ago.
you go.
So that's a good thing.
So then please pass me her name so I can thank her for her patience and get more direct feedback on her challenge.
And then the second question is, when are we going to, or are we going to move to a growth model versus what we are now, a proficiency model?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're asking me the value of CMAS, because we measure both, and we talk about both growth and achievement as goals.
Give him an example.
Like an example, like Carly. Well, she might not be a good example.
May not.
But she's blue. My daughter, she's in the 3rd grade and reads like on a 5th grade level.
Right.
But she's blue. When she leaves, she's going to be blue. Am I going to know that she had 9 months of growth from blue to blue?
Yes. So this is our first year by using Star Renaissance as our interim assessment. Matter of fact, we'll be briefing the board, so tune in on what's 2 weeks from yesterday, the 18th, is that right? Thank you, David. January 18th, the work session will be us presenting our mid-year growth data that comes from our new interim assessment, Star Renaissance, that will give you that information as a parent. And then there will be a campaign of how we communicate that home to every family. Is that right too, David? Right. So I remember taking those little sheets home when I was a kid. Thank you for your questions. Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Maria and I met earlier today at
Yes.
Jack Swigert Aerospace Academy.
Yes. So I'm Maria Andino Jimenez. I am the ELO Community Liaison for middle schools. I am also a parent and alumni of Doherty. And I have a question. So basically, I've worked at a lot of schools. Last year, I worked at Mitchell in the IT department, got to know a lot of the families, ran an empowerment group with girls, and it was a success. My question about some of the things I'm seeing is there a system or plan in place for retaining students who are actively struggling with discipline issues or academically so that we aren't closing the door on their futures? I understand there are students who are not interested and parents who may not be as involved, but for the families that are trying, is there something in the works? A lot of the times I see students that are discouraged. They may not have the support at home, but then they have someone in school who's encouraging them and they're just happy to be there, happy to see a friend, happy to see a smiling face. And then I'll hear that they want to drop out. Or I hear, even in middle school, that they're not interested anymore and they don't even know if they want to go to high school. So my concern not only as a parent, but as a member of the community and a staff member is how are we working on retaining that?
Yeah, thank you for that. Maria works as a community liaison for our middle schools, and I saw her at Jack Swigert today. And as I said to her and Luce, who is, what is Luce's title there? Staff assistant. They're the two that I met when I walked in the door today, and it was just such an inviting, welcoming environment as I walked into the school today. So I want to make sure that you get that acknowledgement for really representing what it means to be part of a staff, and especially since you spread yourself across many schools. I know that's hard to do. But what Maria is highlighting is that we still have great challenges. Best First Instruction is an awesome strategy. We still have kids that we're losing in the system. Just this Tuesday, we brought all the middle school principals in for them each to define to executive cabinet, what is your intervention strategy? And unfortunately and fortunately, we have great variability across our schools in how we handle intervention to get kids when we know that they're not where they're at. We're going to do some more design thinking work around that, which is how do we actually get to the place where you're talking about, which is about the child. So you said a couple of things, talked about retention, right? I learned a new term just the other day. It's called the gift of time, right? So I'm not sure, some people don't see it as a gift of time. Some people want their child to be able to progress socially for a variety of other reasons. We're looking very hard at the high school level on what we call on track to graduate. Dr. Colicky and his team have been helping us find indicators that tell us before we get to that dropout scenario. When when it happens in your brain, it's so much harder to bring you back. We have to be able to engage with kids much earlier. I'm going to use a hypothetical here. It's not a hypothetical, it's an actual child, but I won't use their name. This is a child that came through the expulsion process as a middle schooler for continually disruptive behavior. That's a problem for me because 12, 13, 14-year-olds are not fully developed enough to be held to that level of accountability from my perspective. They can be problematic, but we need to have resources that we help for that child. So now what we did is we made an alternate placement to a different school that we thought would be better situated. That doesn't solve the problem. You know this, I know this. Now I have a chronically absent and truant child in a different school, same child, but now I have a different problem to solve for. And so now we're resourcing, and I bring that to the Student Success and Wellness team and say, how can we get resources to this family to understand the importance of coming to school every day? Is it transportation? Is it you don't like your first period class? Is there a bullying problem? And I just keep telling my staff, just keep digging. So I'll get all the way to the end of it because Lana's in the back here somewhere. I don't know where there she is. We have a dropout problem. Last year we dropped out over 600 kids out of our system. This year we're on track to be about the same. I took all 4 comprehensive high school principals and I said, you need to be tracking every kid that you think might drop out from January 1st to the end of the year. And that doesn't mean that's going to stop it. But I know what Lana can do every day in this building. So I know if she's got attention on the 25 to 50 kids, Spartans, that aren't sure about their future, maybe 15 and 20 of them are going to stay. We have the resources. We just have to get the process to understand how to get them in line early enough. It's about early indicators. Most of those indicators, they're not going to be a surprise to you. 1 F, like actual F, not just in a quarter, 1 F for the year, 2 Fs in a quarter, one or more out of school suspension are all early indicators of students that are getting off track to graduate. So then what do you do when that happens? It's not just, I caught you vaping in the bathroom, vaping's bad for you. It's not just that conversation. You've been out of school for 10 days. Do you understand you're now 10 days behind? How do we have that conversation? We have to be able to go connect those dots. We have the resources to do it. We have the data to do it. I think this is one of the things that people get lost on. Power school transition was a real challenge. It's a challenge for anybody. If I told you right now to change your bank, it's a challenge. And we're all peoples of means. You might go from a good bank to a better bank. It's still hard. The power school transition was hard, but the data that we're going to be able to pull to allow us to be able to connect those dots can get us those early indicators, and then you can actually help, particularly at the middle school. Okay, thank you. I think probably 2 more, 3 more, whatever. Anybody else? Or I can ask another question. Can I get another high school parent? I heard what was good in high school. Can I hear some challenges we're having?
Actually, I'm also an alumni and a parent of Doherty. I actually met Maria here at Doherty. Yeah, but what I have to say probably isn't going to be very positive.
Okay.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I feel like there's a lot going on here at Doherty. I follow a specific account on IG, and the things that they say, I guess they think I'm a student, I don't know. But the things that they say on that IG program, it's like, oh my God, do they just not care about the kids over there? They even say that. They're like, oh, they say they care about our mental health, but all they care about is test scores, and we're gonna riot, and we're gonna da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, you're not going to Doherty anymore, we're done. Like, it's scary. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so what do these kids have? And majority of them, I'm sorry to say, they're kids of color. There's nothing here for the kids of color. I know that because I was here. I built the thing that we did have for the kids of color, and it's gone. I tried to bring it back, didn't work out. Why? I don't know, but it's gone. Mm-hmm. There's kids everywhere that if they had something constructive, they wouldn't be out there, you know, fighting at Sonic and acting ignorant in the bathroom and doing things that we went through in high school. I did not want her to go through. And she's already going through. And I'm like, and in that one situation, there were more excuses than there were resolutions. Mm-hmm. And it's like, as a parent, I'm frustrated because it's like, I see, this is no like offense to any of them. I see things for, you know, the LGBTQ, I see things for the Asian, Pacific, you know, this, that, and the third, but there's nothing here for the African American students. They just now got a Black Student Union, just now. It's gonna change, like if it's supposed to be such a diverse, if we're the heart of the city, we're a military city. There's a lot more people that don't look like you than there are people who look like you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when are we going to accept that? I had a position in District 11, and because of the way I was treated at that school, I left. Although I loved those kids to death, I could not come home to them every day crying. Mm-hmm. Just for the simple fact of the way that I was treated. Like, from the top to the bottom, like something has to change.
Secondly, I'm sorry particularly for your staff experience. Every staff should feel welcome in the environment they're in. And to your daughter, you know, I'd love for us to be able to meet and really dig into, one, what were the programs that were here when you were here, and what are the programs to see for you to feel that you can be a part of a community. We define community ways. The challenge is that when people are defining community for you, it doesn't feel like community to you. And so, you know, I worked in Detroit, in Oakland, in Washington, in DC, and I don't look a lot like a lot of the people that I supported in any one of those cities. So I do understand that there can be a large disconnect between a white male superintendent and Ebony, who has a completely different lived experience as a student and as a staff and now as a parent. So I'd love to be able to connect with you afterwards, but actually come over to the office and let's sit down and talk about that. If we can do that, it'd be great. And how do I pronounce your name? It's Angelica. Angelica, great. And what year are you here? You're a freshman. Is it going okay? You don't want to say in front of mom or not? So.
She knows she can say it.
That's okay. Thank you. All right, can we get one more? Can we get one? Go ahead. Here we come.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Gonzalez, and I grew up in District 11. My kids went to District 11 schools, Scott, Jenkins, and Doherty, and I'm a teacher at Scott. So my question is, because you've referenced it a lot tonight, have you gotten feedback from teachers about the module on Schoology for Best First Instruction training for teachers?
I did, and it was very pointed feedback. And that was one of our earlier modules that we put up, and we are seeking to be less long-winded and boring and lowering the standard for what we know that our teachers are already delivering. So I want to take advantage of this to talk about best first instruction. Best first instruction is not something new. It's not something that teachers aren't already trained to do. It's just us establishing how we think we can resource to ensure that we're getting it everywhere. And so planning, engaging, and adding rigor to your lessons is what I think you as either a staff member or a parent expect to happen in your classroom every day. I have gotten very direct feedback that said that that particular module did not meet where most of our teaching and learning is happening, that our teaching and learning is way above what we put out there. Is that kind of the feedback that you have on that?
I would agree, and I guess as a teacher, if I got that feedback mid-course, I would not make my students continue with learning that I've heard is not valuable to most.
So we're in the conversation right now of how do you differentiate to meet the need? And so what I say individually to both school leaders and classroom leaders, I'm in your classroom. You got, what was your name again?
Jennifer Gonzalez.
And if I were in your classroom, you know, your classroom's working just fine. You're already demonstrating what we want the outcome to be from best first instruction. As a system, 1,800 teachers, I'm not quite at an advanced enough level to be able to say, you need that module, you don't need that module. You know, I'm not trying to oversimplify, but CPR training. Everybody needs CPR training. Some people already had CPR training. If the American Heart Association says you need it once every 5 years, you need it on the 5th year. Everybody has to take it. You might not actually need it because you might already still be good at it. So we're in that nuanced phase right now of trying to understand how do we meet the differentiated needs in the same way that we ask our staff to meet the differentiated needs of our kids. So it's kind of that same piece, which is the state doesn't really care if you like the CMAS test or not. It says this is the test. And we try to meet the differentiated needs of our kids to get them to those objectives. So I appreciate the feedback. We have heard it before. We believe we've adjusted on that in the sense that we didn't do it again. So I can't go backwards. I'm just going to try and go forwards. And we're trying to get the training more individualized. I've asked our Chief Academic Officer, Tamara Acevedo, we have next week we do monthly meetings with our principals. And I said we need to stop relying on just what we would call cascading training. We need to have spaces where we're getting as central office more direct time and feedback from teachers. Not that I don't think principals are great. Principals are the leaders of their building. But if we don't actually spend time talking to and listening to teachers like the feedback we're getting right now, then we're always just going to get the filter through the principal. And sometimes principals will just tell me what I want to hear, right? That happens everywhere you go. So that the feedback mechanism there is called skip a level or skip a layer. And so we're working on that right now. Also, I've asked Chief Academic Officer Acevedo to develop teacher forums. I go visit schools all the time, but normally the questions I get are more operational or what's happening with the system. I want Tamara to be able to sit down with teachers without a principal in the room, without the area superintendent, to get the feedback. She's my lead instructional leaver in this district, and so she wants to be able to have that engagement. So I appreciate that comment, and we look forward to building that out.
And if I could say one more thing, have you heard about a program called peer coaching that existed in our district before you came?
I have heard of several different coaching pieces. I've heard the phrase peer coaching, but I'm not versed right now to tell you if it was you liked it or if we didn't like it or why it went away and if it cost money or didn't. I'm sure there's a bunch of layers there.
Yeah, well, it kind of went away with COVID and things that happened there with some budget cuts that we have. But it just really, as you spoke about when you were in the classroom learning and not fully engaged, and then when you became a pilot and you had hands-on learning and you were excited about learning, that's what it was part of Teachers Coaching Teachers, and a program that actually several of us here helped create. It was created by teachers for teachers, and years ago we had modules on best first instruction and lesson study, and it enabled teachers to collaborate and have subs cover their classes so they could observe each other teaching, give each other feedback, work together, and make exemplary exemplary lessons for their students. So those are the kinds of things that teachers need, real learning, real things that we can collaborate on and see in real time. And I hope that you will maybe look into, I know Parth was here as a parent during that time that we had peer coaching before he was on the school board, and Darren was a principal at that time.
Does Parth have a daughter in the system? I wasn't aware of that.
But it is something that was very powerful for teachers to get the results that you're looking for. So I just wanted to mention that for future training.
Well, we are all in on observation and feedback and coaching. That the outcomes from what you gave me on peer coaching is the outcomes that every district wants.
Right.
And so we'll be happy to take a look. I'll do the historical dig and understand what was working there and how we can ensure that whichever path we're taking forward gets to those same objectives, whether it's with that program or with what I would call a yes and, which is how do we do that and more.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think I'm at time, 7 o'clock, I'm 1 minute over. I try and be really punctual. Are there any last burning questions if somebody feels the need? Because all I have left is a stop at Chick-fil-A.
Oh, I don't want to keep you from that. I just have a question. I have 2 kids at the elementary level.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Kara. Kara. I also graduated from Doherty and taught here for a little bit. But I'm just curious if you can shed light on the district's philosophy on screen time. Sorry, I'm really nervous. At the elementary. I feel like my kids are on screens a lot, and everything we see says it's not good, and I'm just curious.
Yeah, and which school are you at?
They're at Martinez, which we love, wonderful teachers, but my son talks about being on screens a lot and not loving that.
Yeah, I don't love it either. As a leader, I'm never in my office. I do email at night because my job as a leader is to engage and build relationships. I think that teaching and learning starts with a relationship. I do think that there are huge advantages that technology can offer us, but I would love to meet with you to get the specifics. Like, is it a program? Is it a particular time of the day? Because sometimes we will use ed tech to our advantage to create small group opportunities for teachers. So there might be awesome teaching and learning happening at one table, and there might be screen time happening at another. Or, you know, what we're trying to be very careful of is not using screen time for over-assessment. We've been very careful with our new interim assessment to make sure that that's not taking too much time. But generally, I don't think that there's anybody who says that we think that we should be putting early ed kids on more screen time, but we do, if you ever have a technology question, just ask your kid, they'll solve it for you. And so there's a natural desire for kids to want to have access to that. But the way I look at technology is as an augmentation to the relationship between the teacher and the student. And so if you're feeling differently from that, either by classroom or by program, I want to get more specifics on it, but there's no kids need to be on X number of hours a day because some study said that they learn faster, smarter, stronger. No, we don't feel that. This is a relationship-based instructional model that we know works. It's worked for hundreds of years. It'll work for hundreds of years more. You know, I mean, let's be clear. Some kids can learn without access to a high-quality teacher, but that's a very small percentage of kids. My daughter's that kid. My daughter loved COVID. She's a doctoral student. So now she didn't have to see her advisor. Now she just got to program all day. And when she graduates this year with a doctorate in atmospheric science, maybe she'll come here and better predict the weather for me.
There you go.
It's my last weather joke. But she's an outlier. I know she's an outlier. My other 2 kids crave a relationship. If they don't have a relationship, they don't even want to open the book. They actually use the relationship as the barter chip to whether or not they'll engage in the learning. Right. So that's where we want to be as a school district, and let's follow up afterwards to understand more. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So for me, thanks for being here. I love these town halls. They're great. It's always awesome to engage with the community and the staff members. We have so many of our staff members who show up. We are trying our hardest to deliver for our students. When you don't like what you see, I am michael.gall@d11.org. If you misspell my name, I don't get your email. So it's Gaal. My dad would be very proud of that that I can't get your feedback if you don't spell the name right. But we're open all the time. We want to hear your feedback. We're here to serve you. We're here to serve our students. Remember, it's not that our kids meet their potential, it's that they exceed it. If any one of us were where people expected us to be 20 or 30 years ago, we wouldn't be where we are today. So our kids deserve everything we have and more. And thank you, Sparta, for hosting. And let's all run out like it's lunchtime now. Everybody out the door. Okay, thanks, everyone. Thank you.